dearly departed soul, Marshall Carl Connor Jr. Also, he's right there if anyone wanted to pay their respects in the box. During my studies, I came across a term, theology. This term, a theological approach, which means to look at something with the overall purpose in mind or the end result. Whether an academic paper or a life lived, we should look at each event or part for how it relates to the overall purpose or the end result of that life. This is how I took on the task of going through my father's belongings. Every receipt, every scrap of paper, greeting card, book, and notation, every lottery ticket, bill, flyer, and pamphlet asking, what does this mean to the life of Marshall? What does it mean with regard to each of us seated here today? It's not enough to make declarations from individual moments, or even a slew of them. My father could be a difficult man. But we must look at the life in its entirety, peeling back a well-preserved, documented life like the layers of an onion, from the outer old to the inner new. To look at moments, I could tell you, my father could be difficult, stubborn, belligerent, selfish. But I'd rather tell you the equal truth. He had become less of those things in his final decade. He was not as generous as some, but we do not measure one life against others. We compare recent self against past self. And we are not here as rules of measure for Marshall's life, but as celebrants in commemoration of that life. The older, new Marshall was more generous, social, accommodating, and involved than the younger, old Marshall. Where old Marshall didn't attend family events and left decade-old unopened greeting cards, the new Marshall insisted on being present at gatherings. And not only did he open cards, but he wrote notes on them, little reminders to self about that person. I believe that old or new, Marshall loved his family, but certainly new Marshall had grown better at showing it. I stopped buying my dad new wallets. He preferred the old ones with baby pictures of those of us who haven't been babies in a very long time. He was fond of showing off his family to his neighbors. There wasn't a time that I visited that he didn't proudly introduce me around as his daughter, the doctor. In his notes, he liked to write my name with that title, so I found, Dr. Marsha Connor. Yeah, Marsha, that's me. Or Dr. Pooh. Whenever we talked on the phone, first thing he did was ask, "How's Sammy?" And so we'd talk about Sammy before he got around to what he needed. He always asked me about my brother Marcus and my mom Jerry. But he spoke to them too, and I wondered when he did if he didn't ask them about me. Right? At some point, Dad did catch on and started asking me about me, and calling even if he didn't need anything. These were the calls that I appreciated most. The joy in his voice as he told me that he had spoken to his sisters, Bobby Jean or Leicester. The spark of old Marshall as he complained about his homemaker. And then the joy in his voice as he had spoken to his sisters, Bobby Jean or Leicester. The spark of old Marshall as he complained about his homemaker services. But then the joy in his voice as he had spoken to his sisters, Bobby Jean or Leicester. The spark, you get it, a little bit of dementia there. 5 hours of 3-minute conversation. But seriously, Dad was a proud United States Marine Corps veteran. He also believed that having been a sergeant in the Corps gave him expertise in everything from politics, he was probably correct, to whatever it was that anyone else happened to be doing. But he could also laugh at himself for this very reason. When he refused to allow the temporary homemaker up to clean his apartment because he said she was too large, and he started up with that fiery speech, "I was a sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, I know," I interrupted with, "Unless you were a sergeant of cleaning, you don't know what this woman can do in your apartment." He got so tickled. He still ain't let her in. But I understood it to be his way. And I think it's our way in general of holding on to some independence as we increasingly become more dependent on others. And I told him that he was wrong, and that he can't treat people that way or talk to people that way, but I didn't fight him on who he wanted to allow in his space. My dad was a gambling man. There were hundreds of old lottery tickets in his apartment. He liked to play birthdays, mine, Mark's, and his baby sister Kathleen's after she had passed. Don't be offended if he didn't offer yours up to the lottery gods. Some numbers he just didn't like. When Dad got excited about something, you were going to hear about it. Our last conversation during the week of his passing, he had been most excited about seeing his grandson, Marcus, and also Big Marcus. He talked about how big he'd gotten. Grandson Marcus, not Big Marcus. Between Sammy and little Marcus, honestly, I'm probably Dad's third choice for delivering this eulogy.